Hey aficionados, I'm Seth, and this is a Fresh Take. Conway's Law. Organizations which design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. What this is telling us is that whenever you have an organization structured, meaning its teams, its departments, the individuals, and how they interact with each other, the communication between those teams and departments, the structures through which they dialogue, is constraining the design of a software system. So there's a problem with org charts. If we accept that the self-similar force between architecture and team organization described by Conway's Law is real, then we also need to accept that anyone who makes decisions about the shape and placement of engineering teams is strongly influencing the design of the software system architectures. This means that managers and HR deciding on how to reorganize teams or organize teams via an org chart specifically to deliver software solutions are effectively designing the actual architecture of that very software system. But really, how much awareness does the HR department have about software systems? Does the group of department leads or managers really understand the impacts of the decisions they're making to organize teams on the constraints that will then be put on the system that they're attempting to design? What we've learned over time is that organizations that rely heavily on org charts and matrices in order to split and control work, they often fail to create the necessary conditions for embracing innovation while still delivering at a fast pace. So if in an agile transformation, you've ever run into the problem of either the architecture itself is complicated or the means by which you're trying to innovate and go fast is not happening, you really need to take a long, hard look at the way the organization is actually designed. And if your org charts are set up to have siloed communication or too much communication, too much collaboration, then there's a high likelihood that it is the design of those teams, the design of that organization that is impacting your ability to innovate and to deliver fast. So if org charts aren't the solution or probably could be the problem, what should we do instead? Conway's Law tells us that we need to understand what software architecture is needed before we organize our teams. That the way we want the system to be eventually should inform the way that you design your teams in order to facilitate their communication structures to then produce a system that reflects that. So communication paths incentivize the organization in a way that ends up dictating the software architecture. As Michael Nygaard says, team assignments are the first draft of architecture. According to Naomi Stanford in her book, Guide to Organization Design, organizations should be viewed as complex and adaptive organisms rather than mechanistic and linear systems. I think this is a really crucial point to understand. And all this is coming from the book Team Topologies. And they've done a phenomenal job of informing the impact of Conway's Law on software architecture, the aspects of needing to bring technology and people together. And they couch it perfectly by saying we must shift our thinking from treating teams as collections of interchangeable individuals that will succeed as long as they follow the right processes and use the right tools, to instead treating people and technology as a single human computer carbon silicone socio-technical ecosystem. Really fancy way of basically saying that the way your people that are building a system interact with each other have a direct correlation on the design of that system. You can't just say any group from anywhere in any way can build the system that is best. That's where outsourcing can become a problem. That's where siloing teams can be an issue. That's where constantly changing and shifting teams around and projects around is a problem, is because you don't take into consideration in any of those scenarios the direct correlation between the social aspect, the people involved that are contributing in their methods of communication with one another, and its impact on the software architecture. Organization design and software design are, in practice, two sides of the same coin, and both need to be undertaken by the same informed group of people. Alan Kelly's view of software architecture's role expands further on this idea. More than ever, I believe that someone who claims to be an architect needs both technical and social skills. They need to understand people and work within the social framework. They also need a remit, a charge that is broader than pure technology. They need to have a say in organizational structures and personnel issues. Fundamentally, we need to involve technical people in the organization design because they understand the key concepts of software architecture, software design concepts, APIs, interfaces, abstraction, encapsulation, platforms, services, so on and so on. They need to be involved in how teams are structured so that you can create a structure of team organization as the first draft of your architecture that will then constrain appropriately the communication structures that would drive the outcome of that software architecture. So this, in effect, is the idea of applying an inverse Conway maneuver or reverse Conway maneuver, where an organization focuses on organizing team structures to match the architecture they want the system to exhibit. Thanks for watching. If you like this topic, please like the video. Also, subscribe if you want to have notifications of whenever I roll out with new content. I talk about culture, leadership, management, self-development. I also dig deep into Agile principles, organizational design, and other patterns of working and delivering software. Thanks so much, and as always, stay Agile. How do I want to close this? Okay, I need to. Thanks for watching.